Welcome. I'm thrilled that you could all be here today for our tools for adaptation practitioners. I assume that you are all adaptation practitioners. We're going to take you on a tour of three tools that we think are helpful. Um, but first, we're going to give you a little bit of an orientation to this webinar and the Zoom platform, which I'm sure you all understand by now, but a friendly reminder to please keep your audio and video off during the presentations. In fact, that may not be an option for you otherwise. If you would like to rename yourself so that people know who you are and where you're from, feel free to do that through the participant tab. During the course of the webinar, if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the chat. And through reactions, you can share your thoughts as well as raise your hand during the question and answer period that we have as part of this webinar. Next slide, please. Okay, before I introduce myself and the presentation team, we want to give everyone a chance to introduce themselves. If you could go into the chat and share your name, where you're joining from, and any adaptation resources, databases, or networks that you particularly rely on or want to make sure that other people know about, we want to share that information in the chat. So dive on in and do that. And I will also copy a model of that into the chat for people who missed that and want to participate again. Next slide, please. Okay, this is who we are. I'm Laura Hansen. I'm the Chief Scientist and Executive Director of EcoAdapt, and I will be your moderator for this hour. We have three other presenters who are also all EcoAdapters. We have Deb Rudnick, a Senior Scientist, who will be presenting on the Adaptation Help Desk. We have Arden Drake, another Senior Scientist, who will be presenting on the Registry for Adaptation Practitioners. And then Catherine Braddock is a lead scientist and actually normally runs these webinars, not me. She's going to be presenting on the Climate Adaptation Knowledge Exchange. So we have a lot in store for you. If you think you know about the Climate Adaptation Knowledge Exchange, she's going to share some things that you don't know yet because we're updating that tool. But we're going to start diving into those three tools. You'll be seeing these as your guide to which one we're talking about when, in case you forget. But before we get started, we do want to run a little poll to learn a little bit more about what you know about what we're talking about. So if you can let us know if you've used any of these climate adaptation tools before, you can tell us that you've used one of them or all of them. You can answer, you can click multiple choices on it. You don't have to just pick one. Obviously, don't pick that you've never used any of them and also pick that you have used one of them. That would be weird. Looks like people are still answering the poll. Okay. Oh my gosh, there's more and more people joining. If you've just joined, hopefully you can see the poll. We're interested in whether or not you have familiarity with the three resources that we're going to be talking about here. And I'm seeing that there's lower familiarity with the Adaptation Help Desk, which isn't surprising because of this webinar is sort of its big launch into the public. And hopefully you will now know more about the Adaptation Help Desk and will want to use it. And it looks like there's a lot of people on this call who could benefit from the Registry of Adaptation Practitioners because only 10% of you are familiar with that, whereas a quarter or more, depending on the moment, have used Cake. Okay, let's dive into it. Catherine, I'm going to turn it over to you to tell everyone what's going on with the Climate Adaptation Knowledge Exchange as we move into its future, as well as some of its many enduring attributes that will continue going forward.
All right, thanks, Laura. As Laura mentioned, I will be sharing with you all the Climate Adaptation Knowledge Exchange, or CAKE. CAKE was launched in 2010 by EcoAdapt and is a knowledge sharing platform that houses an extensive digital library of free, open access, climate adaptation related resources. Here on the slide, we're looking at the home page of Cake, which I will show you a little bit more in detail in a bit when we do a live tutorial of the site. But first, a little bit more about Cake. Cake provides accurate, timely, and useful information to its users. Again, all climate adaptation related content. It increases awareness of adaptation projects, options, practitioners, and resources, and it engages the broader adaptation community to develop the field of adaptation. So what is on Cake? Cake houses a huge range of materials from case studies to documents to tools, guides, events, and opportunities, those including both job postings and events happening, adaptation related, in person and virtual. Cake houses hundreds of these case studies that highlight real world on the ground examples of adaptation in practice, as well as thousands of documents across scales, topics, and regions. Now I'm going to share my screen and give a little tutorial, and there are two features today that I would like to highlight, which are our new monitoring and evaluation dashboard, as well as how to access some of our federal resources on Cake. So first, just to orient ourselves with the home page, we have these blocks here that get you to some of the great main starter content on Cake. If you scroll down, you see some options for how to filter the different resources here by region. You can click on the map, or you can click on these different keyword topic category areas to get directly to that content. And here at the bottom, you'll see where we highlight the most recently added content to Cake. So you can get started. I'd like to show you this page first, just quickly. You can reach this page here in this block or up in the navigation bar. And this will just give you a little bit more information about the background of Cake, take you through what is on Cake and what we mean by these different things. And then it also is where you will be able to sign up for an account for Cake and contribute your own content. So you sign up easily through here, and then the options to add different types of content to Cake. So if we go back to the home page, I'd like to show you in the navigation bar how you'd get to the big database of all of our resources. So here, if you hover over the resources icon, it categorizes the different types of things we have here: case studies, documents, tools, guides, and toolkits, and then a direct link to this dashboard for monitoring and evaluation. If you click the icon itself, it takes you to the page that will just give you everything. And from here, you can filter through different categories. So resource type, if you want to just see case studies, you can do that. Just tools, you can do that. And then you can filter further by adaptation phase, sector, scale, region, habitat, and target climate changes and impacts. So back to the home page, our monitoring and evaluation dashboard, you can access via this link here prominently on the home page, via that resources subcategory here in the navigation bar. Or we have this section here, monitoring and evaluation resources, where these buttons each will lead you to a specific topic area under that umbrella, but ultimately will lead you back to that larger dashboard so you can explore it further out of those filtered areas as well. So this is the dashboard itself. It reflects a similar format to just our general resources page, but it is slightly different. You'll notice in the keyword panel here on the right side of the page that there are two additional categories, one that focuses on monitoring and evaluation, and another that is focused on efficacy testing specifically. So under here, we have six different categories that will filter these results in the dashboard. As we build this out, the dashboard was launched only winter of last year. So it's still fairly new and we are building it up. We have about 100 just M&E efficacy testing related resources in the dashboard currently, but we continue to add more on a weekly basis, really, and are filtering through all of the thousands of documents we already have on Cake to populate this board as well. And in past user surveys, we've really heard in relation to M&E content that on the ground, real world case studies that we've always put on Cake, M&E related ones are really something practitioners are looking for. So in the next year, we're hoping to build that out more as well. Here you can also see at the top a button to contribute your content, M&E related. And then if you click About the M&E dashboard, it will bring you to this About page. Just gives you a little bit more information on what the dashboard is, how you can use it, and why we added it to Cake. Um, Now I will take us back to the home page and show you this other uh, area that I wanted to highlight today, which is how to access the different federal resources that exist on Cake. Um, Here under Explore Topic, we have a federal resources option. If you click that, it takes you to a page designated for just U.S. federal resources documents. So we have over 20 pages, each with this amount of content on them, that are all federal documents. You can search by title through here. Um, and we are, again, consistently updating this as we can. And we have some users who have been sending us information to add, and we are adding those as well. Another way to find federally related resources beyond documents is if you go back to the broader resources page, scroll down to scale, you will see national, federal. Click that, and it will give you also different tools and case studies that have been labeled with federal national, which means it could be projects at a national scale or federally related tools and specific projects. So here you'll see some examples of those tools that might fall under this broader category. The last thing I'd like to show you in this little tutorial is our community section. So here in the navigation bar, we have community, event calendar, opportunities, and organizations. Event calendar will give you this nice calendar all laid out. You can view this way, you can view in a list, but this shows adaptation related events that are upcoming. Each page will give you information, the registration link, how you can access any websites or contacts that are related to the events. And then we have our opportunities page as well. Nice long list of things that are happening currently. And you can filter these by funding, job, or other. Um, and again, just like our events page, you can click on the individual listings as well, and it will give you the publicly available information mirroring the public listing from the organization, lead you to their website, contact information, and an application link if it's available publicly. A lot more that can be done with Cake, but that's the main highlights I wanted to give today. So I'll go back to my PowerPoint. I think that should show up there. Um, and here are, just for your easy access right now, a QR code to that M&E dashboard, and up just above the picture is the link that you can plug into your browser. And then the link and QR code to that federal resources page as well. The last thing I'd like to highlight, is each month Cake produces a newsletter, which is called the Slice of Cake. And in that, we include a bunch of different things, but it is a way for us to show the community the most recent resources that have been added to Cake. It is organized by topic area. It's also a way that you can find links to contact us easily and contribute your own content. This is a QR code to sign up for the newsletter. Okay, same QR code. And I wanted to point out that in the slice, in addition to the resources, it also gives a list of opportunities and events as well. We have designated sections for monitoring and evaluation. So this is just a screenshot of the promo for the dashboard, which you'll be able to access via link in every slice. But this section is expanded to include the most recent monitoring and evaluation efficacy testing related resources we have on Cake. And then we also have a federal resources section that highlights those resources and gives you that link as well that will take you to that bigger page holding all of the information that we have related to that topic. And that is CAKE, Climate Adaptation Knowledge Exchange. Here is the direct link, cakex.org, if you'd like to explore more. And please feel free to reach out with any questions, or if you're interested in adding resources or want to know more about the monitoring and evaluation dashboard, I'd be happy to answer your questions. I think we have a poll coming up next, and then I will pass it over to Arden, who will talk to us about the Registry of Adaptation Practitioners.
Yeah, and please take the polls that we put out. We use one of the things that I did not clearly share about EcoAdapt, although you probably got an idea of it from Catherine's presentation about the Climate Adaptation Knowledge Exchange, is that we're extremely interested in advancing the field of climate adaptation through a very serious monitoring and evaluation program. Part of that includes getting feedback and information from the adaptation community. So these polls are not just to entertain us during the course of this webinar, but we're actually going to use this information to help inform how we build out content in things like the Climate Adaptation Knowledge Exchange, as well as probably some guidance for what happens at the National Adaptation Forum, but more about that at the end. So please take the poll quickly. And let's actually get started with Arden on the registry.
Okay, let me share the right screen. How does that look? How does that look?
Perfect.
Okay, so the Registry of Adaptation Practitioners is a relatively new tool. We launched it last October, and it is designed to be a searchable directory of currently has 134 vetted climate adaptation service practitioners. So we designed this to support communities and other organizations and other practitioners who are looking for climate adaptation support and expertise. And so this allows them to search specifically for practitioners that meet their needs in terms of experience, expertise, and qualifications. And this tool was developed by EcoAdapt together with the Climate Resilience Fund, the GEOS Institute, and NEMAC, which is through UNC Asheville. So here is a QR code for the registry. And can one of you put the link into the chat as well? Thank you. Okay, so yeah, so the registry was launched in October 2024. We've received 186 applications since that time, I think. And we have vetted and approved 134 of those organizations. 126 of them are included on the publicly available site for various reasons. Some people want to apply but don't want to be searchable, which is an option. So currently our acceptance rate is 72%. And here's just a cool little graph showing the number of applications we've gotten per month since we started. So the registry is available for all of you to join if you're not already in it. The reasons that it's cool to join is that it allows people to find you when they're looking for practitioners with skills, but it also, because we vet folks who come into the registry, so you fill out an application and we check, and I'll talk a little bit about what we're looking for. But if you're listed on the registry, people know that you are a credible, experienced adaptation practitioner. And is at least one grant initiative and soon to be more that use the registry to either just make available to folks who are looking for a practitioner to work with, to collaborate with, to apply for a grant. And then the Climate Smart Communities Initiative specifically requires that the practitioner that you work with on those grants is approved in the registry. And they do that as a way to make sure that the grant dollars are going to practitioners that they know have expertise and can run projects that are successful. So here is just a little shot of what the registry site looks like and the link, and I will switch over and do a little tour of it to show you all how to search and what it looks like. I will note that it's free to use and also free to apply to be a member, so is no cost associated with it. Here's the poll, and then does it show up okay? Yes, okay, great. So this is what it looks like. It's the same. So here are the filters. So when you come in, if you're a community member, you're looking for an adaptation practitioner, or if you're a practitioner looking for someone, maybe a subcontractor or someone to partner with, or just to see who else is out there doing work that's similar or different to your own, you could enter a community with the location of the place. So I live in Amherst, Massachusetts. And then you can come down here and there's these other filters. So you can add the different services that you want them to be able to provide. So adaptation planning is sort of doing these cross-sector community adaptation planning projects, changing policy and law, communication and outreach and engagement. So I could select adaptation planning, and I could also go in and select equity is going to be an important component, and I also want to do a lot of stakeholder outreach. So I could select those three things, and that will pull up all of the practitioners who have selected that they provide those three things. So same thing by hazards. So if I was a community member, I could come in here and select some of the things that are the biggest problems in my community. That's not a problem in Amherst. Let's select extreme heat. And then sectors. So you could say, I want to focus on emergency preparedness, biodiversity and ecosystems. What else? We have public health. And you can select as many or as few as you want. And then the size of your community. And so once you have all your filters selected, it shows the practitioners that match those criteria. Of the 121 people in here, there's 11 that matched those, so they're presented here, and they do show up alphabetically, so it's important sort of to scroll all the way down to see the list. This is only showing, right now, this is only set up to show perfect matches, so all of these folks match the criteria equally. It's not like the first one is the best match. And so you can click on any of these to explore further. So here's EcoAdapt, where I work. You come in, so there's the name and email of a contact there that you can reach out to directly. There's the organization's website, their location, a short description about them. If there are particular types of communities they tend to work with more, there's a little spot where they describe that. And then down here, all these little bubbles are the criteria that they selected that they have and have experience with, and which ones match. And I will say we are currently in the process always of expanding and updating this. So shortly we will also have available a series of 2 or 3 project examples that they have submitted, which are sort of like mini case studies, which our team uses to verify sort of the type of work that they do, but which will be also very useful for folks who are looking to better understand who these people are. And then I'll just note up here, there's an about page with a little bit of info about the registry, and then you can link to the application here as well. So I will flip back to the presentation. Skip those. There we go. So I also wanted to talk a little bit about the application process. So if you're interested in being included in the registry, we accept organizations. So you're not applying as a just individual person, you're applying on behalf of your entire organization. We use the word organization broadly to mean whoever it is that you work for. We also accept governments, you know, academic programs, things like that. And so they need to sort of have a focus on adaptation and demonstrate through the application that they have expertise with adaptation, that they produce high quality results, and that they're knowledgeable about the sort of best practices in adaptation. So this QR code links to the application, but Laura or Deb or Catherine, if you could put a link in there for that. So the different skills that folks offer. So, well, I will back up to say we have sort of two different categories of people in the registry. So we have broad service providers, and those are the folks who are sort of they offer adaptation expertise to a really wide range of different kinds of situations or projects. So for instance, at EcoAdapt, we can walk into a lot of different kinds of situations and say we can bring an adaptation perspective and provide support with adaptation across all sorts of different sectors and hazards and that kind of thing. And so these are the services that the broad service providers provide. They don't all provide all of these, but these are the sort of big groupings, and these are match the filters that you saw earlier. And then we have a second category of specialists. And those are folks who are organizations that primarily do really one specific thing. And so this is an example of some of the specialists that we already have in the registry. There are folks who create digital decision support tools, who do climate education, invasive species management, work with faith communities, that kind of thing. I forgot to show you because the filters I selected didn't match any specialists. But if you're on that page with all of all the sort of tiles of people that you matched with, and you scroll all the way to the bottom, the specialists will be listed there if there are any that match your criteria. And right now we only have about 13 specialists in there, but we just added this functionality and we are in the process of sort of figuring out what category folks belong in. So we will be getting more and further refining that. So that application, the main things that we're looking for in the application are your contact info and information about sort of where your organization is, what your website is, the types of communities that you work with, and the services that you provide so that we can set up the filters so that the right people are finding you. We ask for 2 or 3 project examples that demonstrate the work that you do. So we're looking for projects that are focused on adaptation. Oh, I think I wrote this down here. Projects that are focused on adaptation and projects that demonstrate the services that you say that you provide in the question, where you tell us which services you provide. And then we have a few questions at the end that are sort of narrative essay style questions. We're looking for a couple hundred words that speak to your expertise and your organization's approach on a few different topics, which are sort of dealing with the uncertainty that we all understand to be part of adaptation. And that means we know there's uncertainty in the climate change projections, there's uncertainty in political futures. So how do you help people understand what the range of uncertainty is while also still moving forward to do what needs to be done? We ask about equity, we ask about stakeholder engagement, and we ask about how you approach ensuring that they're minimizing maladaptation or unintended consequences. And yeah, the tips I just put down here, these are sort of things that often pop up in registry applications. You want to be sure that you provide really clear, concise, detailed answers. You want to include specific details, and if we sort of provide a recommended word count, that is so that you give us the amount of detail that we need to evaluate the question. And then making sure that project examples are adaptation focused, like I said. That's it. That's all I've got on the registry.
Thank you, Arden. We're going to move right into the next presentation by Deb Rudnick on the Adaptation Help Desk, and then we'll have a question and answer period at the end, as well as a query for all of you. Take it away, Deb.
Great. Can you all hear me? Great. All right, thanks very much. I am going to talk about the last of the three tools we are discussing today, and this is the Adaptation Help Desk. This is a resource for adaptation practitioners and folks working in the climate resilience, climate adaptation field to find information and ask questions in this sphere. And it covers a wide range of topics and areas, as we'll see as we go through it. Next slide, Arden. Great. So like the registry, the Adaptation Help Desk is also a relatively new resource. It can be reached through the QR code that was on the last page, and thank you for putting the links in the chat. You can access it through the Climate Smart Communities page and also through the U.S. Climate Resilience Toolkit page. And because this is a relatively new resource, we are really hoping to reach out to the adaptation practice community to help us grow this resource so that it can help you. And I'll talk a little bit more as we go through this as to how it is you can do that. Next slide. Okay, so when you come to the Adaptation Help Desk page, the first thing you're going to see is a box with some text that describes to you what is here. The Help Desk provides technical resources, and it also provides FAQs that speak to climate adaptation practitioners and supports climate adaptation work. And then there is also an option to ask questions if you're not finding the answer you need, and I'll dive into that in a minute. But the first thing to note is there's kind of these major section headings you'll see when you come to the page. That's over on the right-hand side of the screen. And there are things like understand exposure to climate-related impacts, vulnerability and risk assessment, adaptation strategies, and a series of additional categories you can see here. If you're familiar at all with the Steps to Resilience framework developed by NOAA, these major headings kind of reflect those major areas of adaptation practice. So we're really trying to encapsulate different components of the adaptation planning and implementation pathway to provide support in those areas. Next slide. So if you look underneath those area headings, you'll see two drop-down menus for technical resources and for FAQs. And here's an example of the technical resources for that understand exposure heading. If you click on that little down arrow on the side, it's going to bring up a table for you with a series of resources that support that area of understanding exposure. Many of these links will take you to external websites that help provide data or information or resources that speak to understanding exposure and climate change. And next slide. And then the other subsection is the FAQs. These are more narrative statements that help define and explain what these different areas or topics mean. They're not meant to be exhaustive. They're a starting point, but they will give you some insight in terms of if you have a question around, well, where do I find adaptation strategies, or how do I figure out how to look for options for adaptation strategies. There's some basic definitions here to get you started. And then, of course, there are the associated technical resources that will help you dive in further. Next slide. And if you can't find the answer you're looking for in the FAQs and technical resources, also on this page is a form for the help desk. And so you can submit a question to us. If there's something in the adaptation sphere you are wondering about or working on, here's where you would submit a question using this question box. And then you would provide us with your name and contact information because we need a way to get back to you. And then you'd hit that submit button. Next slide, please. So real people are answering your question, which is great news. And there's multiple partners that are involved with providing this support. There's, of course, our federal partners at NOAA that host the Climate Resilience Toolkit. As you all are very aware, they're not answering questions about the Climate Resilience Toolkit right now, but fortunately, we have multiple partners that are able to provide this additional support, including ourselves at EcoAdapt, our colleagues at Fernleaf Consulting, and the folks at UNC Asheville, the National Environmental Mapping and Application Center. So we are all on call to answer questions. And if you have a question that none of us thinks we can answer for you, we have lots of colleagues in the adaptation space that are happy to have us call on them as well to source information for questions. So we have lots of ways to get this information back to you. Next slide, please. A few tips on helping us help you best with respect to the Adaptation Help Desk. Keep your questions relevant. So we're looking for questions from you in the climate adaptation space, or looking for resources in climate science that might support an adaptation process. In general, if you use the subcategories that are outlined in the FAQs and the technical resources, that's a pretty good guide of the scope of the types of questions that we're ready and able to answer for you. And then it's great to make your question as specific as possible. That really helps us help you. So you can ask us a general question, such as, where do I find information about coastal flooding? But better yet, if you're coming with a question that's more specific, like looking for examples of rural communities that have identified vulnerabilities and adaptation options for responding to coastal flooding hazards, that's great. The more detail you can give us, the better equipped we are to respond to your questions and answer things more specifically and give you what you hopefully are really looking for. And then, as I said, we are real people. Answering your question, you will get an email back from one of us. And if you do so, please take our brief survey that we'll provide in that email, because we are really trying to consistently improve this resource. As we mentioned, it's a fairly new one. We're hoping to grow it. And if you have a question that isn't currently captured in our FAQs or technical resources, then we can use your question as a basis for adding more content to the website that's going to be useful for other practitioners in your field as well. So it's a great way to grow and expand this website over time. Next slide. I think that's it from me for the help desk.
Yeah, thank you, Deb. And before we get to the general questions, we'd actually love to ask for a little bit of help of people who are on this call. And we'd love for you in the chat to share ideas about how you think we should get the word out about the Adaptation Help Desk. Are there venues that you think would be useful for sharing information? Do you have a newsletter? And if we sent you text, you'd include something about it. Just looking for ideas to increase people's knowledge that it exists. So happy to take general questions. Also looking for feedback and ideas from all of you. Oh, okay, there's a question, and I'm in the participants, not in the chat. First question is, great tools. Do you have grant funding to provide these services, especially the help desk? Deb, do you want to answer that one? You want me to answer that one?
You can take it away.
Okay. We currently have funding as part of support through the Climate Smart Communities Initiative. And we also have some general support that we're using for them. Kate, we have been funding since 2010 when it was launched. It is one of the most consistently funded, managed, and maintained resources. Always looking for grants for that. We fund that entirely with general support. And the registry is only in its first year. It is on some grant funds, and hopefully those will continue. We're seeing it being picked up by more entities to use to help inform grant making. So we're hopeful that it will be as well. Oh, thank you for these suggestions of places to share it. Those are great. Okay, another question. In relation to CAKE, do you include lessons or best practices from municipalities globally or just US case studies? And also, what is the scale of some of these projects? Can I find projects that are regional or watershed scale versus municipal or neighborhood scale? Catherine, that one is all yours.
For case studies, they are not just related to US-based projects, but that is the majority of what we have on CAKE. But they range in scale national. We certainly have ones that are at regional level and then more community or local government-based projects. And those can be found through filtering through that scale category. Um, I think that answers that. Yeah. Certainly would love to build up the global resources on CAKE if there's any that you had in mind that you would like to share. And like I mentioned, we are working in this next year to really build out the case studies available, hopefully a range of scale that are monitoring, evaluation, and efficacy testing related as well.
Yeah, really trying to build that monitoring and evaluation efficacy testing piece. So if you have ideas for that, by all means share them. But we are open to any case studies that are implemented actions that could be used for the evaluation. Lots of great suggestions on how we can get the word out on these. Thank you all so much. We will be following up with materials as you have requested. Question is, are we planning to present about the Adaptation Help Desk at the Midwest Climate Resilience Conference in Milwaukee? I will be there. I will be actually running a session with a colleague from ICF, Kim Airby, on monitoring and evaluation, but we will have a booth where we will have materials about the help desk and the registry and CAKE. More. Okay. Can I get an email to follow up about these presentations done with our state adaptation planners at Caltrans? Absolutely. We're happy to share those. And in fact, a recording of this will be posted.
And I shared Catherine's email directly with that poster as well, Laura.
Excellent. Thank you. So many great newsletters. Okay. I'm not seeing any more questions. I'm seeing great suggestions. We have a couple of other questions. Oh. Oh, yeah. Okay. Josh Foster asks a very long question. Have you tested extraction of CakeX info and tools from AI searching or search engines? For example, if I put a prompt in the current Google search engine that now defaults to AI summaries, say also with the cake prompts, would it assemble answers from these three tools, which would reduce the human touch, but would also help publicize? Great question. I assume it probably does because I don't think we have any control to stop it. So yeah. Okay, scrolling down to other questions. Okay. Question for you three. What are the most common gaps you see in adaptation practice today, and how do these tools help fill them? Any one of you want to jump in on that?
I can speak for on the registry side. A gap is that I see is that there really isn't standardized training for adaptation. It's an extremely interdisciplinary field and a somewhat new one. And there are more sort of grad programs and things that address it, but there's not one standard degree or certificate even really. There's a couple of certificate programs, but there's nothing standard, and so our hope is that the registry can be one way, that we can have some base level of vetting, and communities can feel comfortable knowing that people have met a sort of foundational level of knowledge and expertise in a similar way, perhaps if someone has a certificate or some other kind of accepted training.
And I would say from the help desk perspective, we don't have enough data yet, but keep feeding us your questions and we'll get a better sense of that.
And definitely there's the reason we created the help desk, which is that because the adaptation field is so disparate, there are not central places to go to get information always. And especially people who are new to the field may not know who to ask or where to find information, and wanted to provide that, which is really a lot about what CAKE is about as well, isn't it, Catherine?
Mhm. Yeah, and I'd add on to all of this, probably not by surprise by how much it's been plugged, but a lack of monitoring, evaluation, efficacy testing, content that is easily available for practitioners, open access. We have quite a few databases that exist that are similar to Cake in the way that they house adaptation related content in some format, document or case studies. But at least what we've found with Cake, and I know in some cases similar for other places, are that a lot of them stop at implementation. So not all, but not in a way where you can approach it and say, I'm looking for efficacy testing in this particular type of project. Where do I go to find that kind of information? So that's really um, the point where we as a team came to, and in work we were doing, as Laura mentioned, to work more in that area, to build out a dashboard that will be helpful for practitioners in that realm. Um, and as mentioned before, certainly we want to make it as useful as possible. So feedback and input from you all adaptation practitioners is really important. Developing that in a way that's useful, and also in generating content, and making that accessible in one place to practitioners and others, community members, and anyone interested in knowing more about the field.
Thanks. There is a question here about whether or not there's a fee associated with being an organization hosted on the Registry of Adaptation Practitioners, and we are happy to report no, there is not. You are free to search it to find a practitioner. You are free to register. That may change at some point when we run out of grant funding to support it. It may require a fee to get reviewed and vetted, because it does take a considerable amount of time. Arden manages all of it, but there is a team of folks who review them. Every submission is reviewed by at least 2 reviewers. It often involves sending questions back for clarification, because we want to make sure that not only are you well vetted, but once you're in the registry, that you're well presented, which is that example that Arden brought up of adding in the examples of work that people have done. That's one of the things we want to make sure is done well. There's a question from Elizabeth Cox, who maybe can clarify for us, asking what the most popular use of engagement mode or method. In other words, what is your most used or requested resources? I assume that this is from within CAKE. The Adaptation Help Desk, not much used or requested yet, because welcome to the Adaptation Help Desk, the registry you've seen the numbers on. Catherine, do you want to share some about the most requested tools?
I certainly can. So for Cake, in terms of motor method for getting there, how people are searching for it, we have a lot of people, I'd say probably majority, doing direct search for things such as resources. A lot of traffic we have coming in, which is not an insignificant amount looking specifically for opportunities and events originating from social media or our newsletter. And the most popular, we have the data from the last year, resources that people have searched out are our M&E dashboard. And then another dashboard we have, the Marine Protected Area Toolkit, which is a toolkit that houses a bunch of different case studies and information specifically related to MPAs. So I might suggest people go check that out too. It's pretty great. Yeah, those are the top things I could say off the top of my head.
Okay. Any other questions that someone would just like to ask? I don't see any hands raised, but if there are anyone who doesn't want to type in their question, I want to leave space for that. Otherwise, I'll ask another question. How can the adaptation community support and or contribute to these tools?
Sure, I can jump in with the help desk because I already said it. You can contribute to our tools by asking us questions and helping us grow the content in that website. That will really help us. And as a new tool, we're definitely looking for that kind of feedback and engagement.
Yeah, similarly for the registry, definitely if your organization is not part of it, but you work on climate adaptation resilience, applying is a great way to help us grow the number of people in the registry, which will mean that when folks are going there, they're more likely to find a match. They're more likely to see the name of people they're already working with, which will grow trust in the registry. But you can also share information about it with colleagues who might want to join the registry or search the registry for subcontractors or partners, as well as with communities and potential users of the registry, which could be pretty much everybody. So, getting the word out, using it yourself, letting people know that it exists. We're really excited to also see it provided to grantees, potential grantees of a few different foundations are starting to pick it up. And it makes a great resource for people who might be interested in applying for grant dollars, but don't necessarily know who they're going to be working with to implement their project yet. And if anyone does do that or sees examples of it being used in the wild, we would also love to know about it. So please let us know. Laura, do you want to maybe put contact in like emails or something in the chat?
Oh, great idea.
Yeah.
And I'll answer for Cake real quick. Like I've mentioned, you can contribute through Cake itself, different resources, case studies, events, opportunities you may have. You can also reach out to us directly. In terms of supporting Cake, I think sharing resources is a great way to do that, besides helping us build out the content itself. So we have a presence on LinkedIn where weekly we are sharing kind of the most recent stuff we are adding, as well as the newsletter, signing up and sharing that. That's a great way to get Cake out there, and share the news of what we're doing.
Okay. Well, there's a few more things that we want to tell you all about before our time is done.
Do you want the
Before I
next?
move on, last call for questions. Anyone have a question? Okay. Next slide then, please, Catherine, because we would be remiss if we did not share that in 7 days, 1 week, the National Adaptation Forum call for proposal will be closing. We want to make sure you all have the National Adaptation Forum on your calendars. It will actually be happening May 12th through 14th, 2026 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We are extremely excited about this from our conversations with our adaptation peers. This feels like it will be a much needed event for us all to connect, re-energize, and focus on the work that is ahead despite the barriers that we face. Next slide for that link for the call for proposals. That QR code will take you right there. You can submit a session, you can submit, which can be a symposium, a working group, or a training. You can submit an individual presentation, just a talk that will fit into another session. You can submit a poster, you can submit a tool for the Tools Cafe. So many opportunities for you to share what it is you're doing with the rest of the adaptation field so that we can all learn together and keep this moving forward. Next slide, please. Thank you so much for participating today. As I said earlier, EcoAdapt's goal is to learn, and then share everything that we're learning. We do that through CAKE. We share our own results through CAKE. We do it through the National Adaptation Forum, and we do it through other products that we make. We do that by getting information from people. So if you can please take this survey, I believe that the survey link is also in the chat, although the chat is just flying by me right now. We would really appreciate it. It's quick, it won't take you very long, but this kind of information is really important to us and how we do our work. Okay, I'll just say thank you from everyone at EcoAdapt, representing the National Adaptation Forum, CAKE, National Adaptation Forum, who runs these virtual forums like this event. If you have topic suggestions for a future virtual forum, please share those. I believe that's also a question in the survey. Thank you for using the registry. I hope you all use the help desk and keep using and sharing your content in CAKE. Deeply appreciated. We're all in this together. We couldn't do it without you. And the recording of this event is coming soon. Thank you all so much.